It comes time once again to delve into the mind of Jeremy Hambley, aka Unsleeved Media and The Quartering, because he continues to stick his size 14 boondocker in his size 10 mouth. Most of the footage in here will be from Battle for Azeroth and one of the dungeons, but there will be other visuals presented. I realize that another video on Jeremy means it will be ratioed, as no one is supposed to speak ill of him according to his followers, as evidenced by repeated claims when I made a video stating that, well, Jeremy needed to stop being a drama monger, and I was subsequently called a pedophile defender not long after for it, despite signal boosting the entire incident. For a little backstory, Jeremy goes by two handles on YouTube: The Quartering, which is his skeptic channel a la Sargon of Akkad, and Unsleeved Media, his channel dedicated to gaming of all sorts. He came to prominence outside of Magic the Gathering circles in November 2017 when a Magic cosplayer named Christine Sprankle accused Jeremy of targeted harassment over at least a year. This led to a firestorm of people, mostly other notable Magic personalities, calling out for his blood. Solarian Community College did a video not too long after the tweet surfaced in which he accused Jeremy of the same thing and also claimed that he had been the target of similar harassment, but refused to provide actual evidence of said harassment, claiming Jeremy had deleted the offending tweets, despite the tweets that Solarian Community College used in his video defending Christine being captured hours after they were made. On December 7th, WotC banned Jeremy for life from their DCI-sanctioned events, kicking off a prolonged campaign starting roughly a week later and carrying on into the Christmas season and beyond, with Jeremy exposing DCI-sanctioned judges that have been convicted of pedophilic charges to include possession of child pornography and sexual abuse of a child. To this day, he continues to talk about it. As for his handle, The Quartering, he's been on Tonka Saw's The Morning Kumite, among others, most notably when he claimed that Andy Worski was wrong for releasing DMs between him and Sargon of Akkad, when the latter claimed he'd never spoken to Andy about being on his show. From an outsider's view, he's made a habit of claiming that shows that are critical of him are dead, much like the people he accuses this of make the same claims. He's not right, but he's also not wrong. It's a mishmash. At Gen Con 2018, Jeremy claimed to have been attacked by an individual unprovoked, and he ended up tweeting out his alleged attacker's name, as well as the business he owns and the college he works at.
He also, at one point, had deleted his LinkedIn, but it appears it's back up now. This is good because now we know he is a university professor at Quinnipiac University. Now, I am going to contact them politely and let them know, and I want to hear from Quinnipiac University if they plan on keeping a violent criminal, accused criminal, on their staff. And I invite Quinnipiac University to look at the evidence presented in this video, and I'm very interested to hear what Quinnipiac University has to say about their professor, Matt Lauder.
Later, Jeremy would recant this, saying he had been wrong.
Lawyers, and I'm going to ease up a little bit on the SJW tactics. Probably not right to go after the people who publish his game. I deleted that tweet. His employer at the school, again, I think I'll just contact them directly and let them know the situation, and that's probably the best course of action there. I think I just got too emotional. Bloodlust, revenge, not the coolest decisions.
But the damage was already done. The college apparently removed the person in question. His livelihood was put in jeopardy. Now we head into the exploration part where I provide my own commentary and opinion on the entire debacle. I'll begin by saying the following that I know will be disregarded by the rabid Quartering fans who tell us you can shit talk anything you want, but not our sacred cow, literally and figuratively. Violence used against people you disagree with is not the answer to anything. Let me say that again for the hearing impaired and mentally retarded that will see me tag Quartering and come to Milady's defense because they will ignore it. Violence in response to opinions you don't like is unacceptable. With that out of the way, let's continue. Jeremy is a drama whore. Any drama he can wade into, he does so. More so if he can become the center of attention. To Jeremy, any attention is good attention because it puts his brand out there. This is why he makes intentionally acerbic comments to elicit responses from emotion and not from reason. He wants SJWs and regressives to overreact, and he does it by being tactless, coaching it behind being an edgelord and a shitposter. That's all well and good, as I am a shitposter often enough, but rarely does he provide a differing viewpoint from his own, and he will routinely insult people like Arnita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn, two women I have absolute disdain for, by the by, in order to get responses from their fans. In the end, Jeremy's brand is himself, which is no different from myself, Sid Alpha, Jim Sterling, Sargon of Akkad, or any other YouTuber out there. We market ourselves some more successfully than others, and while many of us wade into drama, it's not the focal point of our channels. However, with that comes a lot of hypocrisy on his end. He will readily decry Sarkeesian for using Patreon to run her brand, or Wedge for trying to pay off his medical bills via GoFundMe, all the while making bold assertions that the money is being used for other purposes with little in the way of actual evidence, but actively uses such sources to run his own brand, saying that all the money from Patreon and the like goes into the channel. He attacks SJWs for crowdfunding for their plans, making no distinction between word and deed, and immediately starts shilling his own crowdfunding via proxy thanks to Evan Van Scriver for a lawsuit against Matt Fantastic. He speaks against people using screenshots against him or others he likes because they, quote, don't show the whole picture, unquote, yet will say that screenshots he uses are 100% proof positive of what he's saying because he vetted it. By this point, having seen the hypocrisy the man oozes, if you believe he's genuine in attacking mundane Matt for flagging people critical of him, but think this thin-skinned individual hasn't done the same thing, you haven't been paying attention. He follows the standard regressive leftist mantra, rules for thee and not for me. Don't hold him to his own standards. If it wasn't for double standards, he wouldn't have any. More to the point, this lawsuit, and that's what I'm going to call it from now on, a lawsuit, against Matt Fantastic is nothing but a PR stunt being done by Quartering. The, quote, witness statements, unquote, were done up in Word and clearly look to have been written by him. There's so much extraneous, pointless information that they'd be told to rewrite it by any detective or DA because they don't want editorializing. They want the facts as succinctly as possible in the courtroom. While he claims he wants to set a legal precedent for using violence against opponents of yours who espouse opinions you don't like, there's already legal precedent in the law, namely assault and battery laws. More to the point, people who use violence to stop political opponents, well, it's referred to as terrorism, and domestic terrorism laws, when properly applied, can and do make a difference. This is why groups such as Antifa try to hide their identities. Much like his claims of filing a lawsuit against WotC for taking his Magic Online collection, Jeremy is unwilling to risk his own money on a venture that could backfire. Rather than do the right thing and file the lawsuit against WotC, he decided to do chargebacks on his credit card to regain his lost money, despite taking me to task in a comment stating that, quote, lawsuits take time, unquote. Well, no shit, Jeremy. I've filed lawsuits. One against Hewlett-Packard that I put my own money on, and turned down a settlement from HP because, unlike you, I did want the legal precedent set to help others suffering from the same defective products I was. Unlike you, I put my own money on the line, and the gamble paid off. I also helped others like I said I wanted to. But this is what Jeremy does. He says one thing to seem like he actually cares, then does whatever best benefits himself. He's threatened a lawsuit against Matt Fantastic for the love taps he delivered to Jeremy. And I say love taps because that appears more and more like that is what he got. If the punches had dealt damage, Jeremy would have gone to the hospital to make sure that there wasn't any actual physical issues caused by the attack. He would have wanted to make sure he didn't have a concussion. He was punched in the back of the head. It's very easy to do some damage. That's the brainstem. It's not like there's a lot of protection there. More to the point, he He would have wanted to have a medical professional's opinion in writing, saying that there was damage that had been notated. Jeremy didn't do it though, citing the cause primarily. He didn't show us the knot he claims to have, but he showed us a bruise on an easily bruised portion of the body. A day or two later, he showed us a subconjunctival hemorrhage that he claimed as damage done from the punches to the back of his head. Had he actually received a punch that dealt that type of damage, there would have been bruising around the eye. And as you can see here, there isn't. No bruise, no black eye, no discoloration. Nothing to indicate a strike to that portion of his face. And these broken blood vessels are notoriously easy to get. You can get them by pushing too hard when you take a crap. So next time, Jeremy, use a laxative and save your eyes. Despite saying he wants to do all this strategically, he refuses to keep his mouth shut. Jeremy, rule number 1 when filing a lawsuit, a rule that lawyers tell clients all the time, is to keep your mouth shut. Don't talk about it. Don't do anything to draw attention to it. You want to blindside the opposition with everything that happens to negate the response they can file and make sure time works on your side. By making all this public, he negates surprise and initiative, which are important in a situation like this. If you don't believe me when I say he is incapable of keeping his mouth shut, I did a video on his Twitter rant where he said all of this, and said he couldn't wait to tell everyone who his attorney was. Using previous tweets from that day, I deduced it was Steven Crowder's lawyer, and I was right. He doesn't think these things through, and why should he? He doesn't put anything on the line. But most damning came out last week. One of them is a video in which Jeremy says this.
That I had with game developers while I was there that I couldn't attend because things were crazy. So this was a huge hit to my business, and that doesn't even take into account the emotional impact, which, call me a cuck if you want, but this has scarred me. It has made me apprehensive about meeting my fans. It has made me apprehensive about going to more conventions. Now,
that's right. He's suing for the emotional impact because it's scarred him. Jeremy berates people for using such terms, and he has said in the past perpetuating the victimhood mentality does nothing to help anyone, a statement I would agree with. Yet here he is, preparing his lawsuit because of the same crap he calls other people on. This is not an alpha male, ladies and gentlemen. He's the same beta male he makes fun of. Once again, rules for thee and not for me. But most damning, in my opinion, is this screenshot I was sent. Now, I have to preface this and say the individual sent me more than just the text you see here. I removed it at his request. I'm keeping him anonymous for all intents and purposes at his request. And why? Because there is a habit of Jeremy claiming it didn't happen and then his followers attacking the person who did this, who reveals this information. I'm not saying Jeremy instructs them to do it, but there is enough of a rabid fan base around Jeremy that it's an issue. It's a worry for many of these people. In it, you can see this individual ask Jeremy why he's filing a restraining order against someone he will likely never see again, as they live 5 states and 1,000 miles apart. A valid question considering the topic. And Jeremy admits, allegedly, that he's doing it to fuck with the guy's business and to get him into even further trouble. He follows it up by saying, it's not illegal. Well, guess what, Jeremy? Common sense is applied to TROs. If you attempt to file a complaint against him because he's at a convention doing work, and you show up as a patron of that convention, not doing work, doesn't matter if you're doing a podcast or not, if you are not a vendor, if you are not a booth owner, you're not there at work, you're considered a voluntary showing. For him, it's work. He doesn't have a choice. You placing him in such a position shows how much of a shitbag you are. Once again, this is alleged, as the screenshot cannot be independently verified. If it's legit, I have encouraged this person to send the entire conversation to Matt Fantastic's lawyer. Now, I believe it's legitimate, as this kind of mentality, this pedantic, childish mindset, is not new to Jeremy. This is his modus operandi, keeping himself in the spotlight by claiming to be a perpetual victim. lambasting people who play the victim in a constant manner, and working behind the scenes, scheming to hurt people he disagrees with, whether or not they've attacked him. In short, Jeremy strikes the objective observer as a deceitful, pedantic man-child. The last 9 months since Magic-Gate should have made this clear to everyone. You can support him when something like this happens, or when he was banned by the DCI for making tweets that, whatever, nobody cares. He said some things that people didn't like, didn't warrant a ban. But you can also hold him accountable when he does something that is shifty or unethical. That's what I do. I support that him being attacked is wrong, but I also believe that his actions regarding chargebacks against WotC, being a pathetic man-baby, and this new information is wrong, and he deserves to be called out on it. The smart thing for Ethan to do would have been to tell Jeremy, all right, we have this GoFundMe set up. If you want to see anything from it, I'll need invoices from the attorney, and I will comp you 50% of whatever you spend. That's the smart thing, because then Jeremy has to actually put something on the line. At this point, he doesn't. He could walk off with the money and there'd be little that could be done. I don't think this is a possibility, but people who talk a big game should be forced to prove it. Put up or shut up. Jeremy never does this. But that's just me. Feel free to comment below if you agree, or even if you disagree. I don't mind reading and responding to criticism or disagreement. In fact, I encourage it. Just keep it relatively speaking, civil.